1. Back in the fall of 2018, I scored a seasonal gig as a production assistant for a weeks-long art festival in the Midwest. I loved the other production assistants I'd worked with. We were a pretty motley crew in terms of age and interests, but somehow hit it off really well as a group. Even upper management was awesome, so we had a lot of fun together. Suffice to say, I loved my co-workers, all but one. Let's call her Condescending Connie. At our morning stand-ups, Condescending Connie managed to take credit for everything that got done the day before, despite not having lifted a finger to help us. She even managed to aim subtle put-downs to the person who actually did the work without her help, implying that we were the ones who sat on our asses. She never outright said this, though. She was careful to toe the line short of saying outright lies we could call her out on. But of course, this didn't sit right with me. So one of my tasks as a production assistant was stocking and tagging merchandise for the art festival's gift shop. Just after I finished using the tagging gun to price some t-shirts, Condescending Connie threw her jacket behind the shop counter, ignoring my hello, and walked back out again. I don't know what synapses fired in my brain to give me this idea, but I picked up her jacket and took out the pricing gun to punch a price tag fastener through the clothing label. You know, one of those little pieces of plastic that get left behind on the label when you try to rip the price tag off by hand. I don't know what I was thinking, but I put her jacket away a little happier, knowing it might be a mildly irritating inconvenience. Wouldn't you know it, a few weeks later I was again tasked with pricing new hats and shirts and such, and noticed that Condescending Connie had left her jacket behind. She had apparently removed the little plastic nib I left earlier, so I took the liberty of punching a new one in. This continued over the course of my seasonal job. Every 2 to 6 weeks or so, I would sporadically punch a little pricing tag fastener through the hats and scarves and jackets she left behind the counter. Because Condescending Connie had never actually seen anyone use the pricing gun, and because it's such a minor little thing to happen, over the course of multiple articles of clothing over months of time, it never seemed to occur to her that someone was doing this behind her back. I'm pretty sure she legitimately questioned her sanity by the end, wondering if she could trust her clear-as-day memories of cutting the plastic tag piece away, only to find it intact days or weeks later. One afternoon in the lunchroom, I overheard Condescending Connie talking to someone on the phone, and actually saying something to the effect of, "I think I'm losing my mind." That made me feel guilty enough that I decided to address her later and own up to my prank. But as soon as she ended the call, I heard her raise her voice with an elderly volunteer for setting some pamphlets down in the wrong area. So needless to say, I kept going. Even when she moved her jacket and bags in such 2 different hiding spots, I found ways to smuggle in the price gun and punch in another tag fastener. I regret nothing. 2. A really long backstory, but it makes sense in the end. So at work a few months ago, I was written up for various reasons. Also, during this time, I was being forcibly removed from my department and put in a different one with no change in job title or pay. Now, my new supervisor is someone who used to be a director of a different department, and we do not see eye to eye on a lot of things. But as my superior, I usually end up smiling and nodding. But you can ask anyone, he does not like me. Because I help people in other departments when they have questions and like to talk to the floor staff when we're slow. But in regards to the write-up, it was for, 1, I spoke to a couple of employees I was training in a manner I found professional and direct, as they were struggling to learn the job, but they thought was mean for basically asking them to do their jobs. I offered additional training, which I thought was nice because it isn't my job to train them in the first place. They refused. Their manager and supervisor felt the same as me because they ended up getting fired. 2, one employee was avoiding me, because when I made baked goods for the staff, he ate over half of them. So I made more, and asked if he would let the others get ones first. He came to my office 4 times within 10 minutes, joking about stealing a treat. This being on a very stressful week, hence my baking, that on the 5th visit, I asked him if he would please stop coming in every half hour and asking about the treats, and that if there were any left at the end of the day, I would be happy to give to him, but my office mate and I are really stressed and need to focus. I did offer him the leftovers at the end of the day, which he turned down. But apparently he was avoiding me, and that came out in his annual review, which he then told to HR. 3, I am accused of being the office gossip. Like when I come to HR and tell her there's an issue with a staff member, but they were too scared to come to her themselves, or when I tell a VP my sincere concerns about what might happen when privileged information is released to the full staff. That's apparently gossip here. And I honestly do gossip to an extent, but mostly vent. And I do it as much as every other staff member and far less than some. But the reasons behind the write-up are not rational, and since the write-up, though, I've been avoiding being in the know of any office drama, or talking about any happenings. I'm usually the last to know, walking around on eggshells. This all happened back at the beginning of the year, and the incidents behind the write-up happened last year. At some point, my manager was told by HR and our supervisor that I needed to watch some HR training videos to, I don't know, learn from my behavior. So I was asked to watch videos on the following topics: working well with everyone, parts 1 to 5, microaggressions, workplace bullying for employees, being the gossip, and then pick 3 more that were thematically similar. Cue the malicious compliance. I watched all videos in question. I watched more than 3 others. I watched 8. They were advocating for equal pay, for equal work retaliation against discrimination, communicating with respect and professionalism, how to talk with your boss, how to work with someone you dislike, neurodiversity. What is neurodiversity? Neurodiversity. Working with neurodiverse people. Neurodiversity. Misconceptions about neurodiversity. Anyways, can't wait to find out if I'm getting written up tomorrow for insubordination. Honestly, it would be humorous if I got fired mainly because they can't function without me. I've trained half the office staff. 3. I used to work at a very nice private hospital where the place looked like a hotel. The food was great and the service unrivaled. We were voted best private hospital in the country quite a few times, and all around, people were happy and the care was great. The nurses were mostly old school, stern, but very passionate about patient care, with no time for anything that stops them from doing their job. My job was to focus on marketing and complaints, and to be honest, I didn't have a lot of work on the complaint side, but every now and again something would come up. If there was an incident, the RNs would usually come and warn me to expect something and give their side of the story. One morning as I got to work, an RN was waiting at my door to update me on an incident the previous night. There was an 18-year-old patient who had a small up, but was prone to dizziness and fainting. Now, slip and falls are a big thing in hospitals, and these incidents get monitored very closely. Since she was a slip and fall risk, they moved her to a private room right in front of the nurses' station so that she can be monitored throughout the day and night. One night, the tattoo-clad, older nurse's description, 20-something boyfriend comes to visit and forgets that he is in fact in a hospital and not a hotel. Old school, stern nurse realized something is amiss when the room's doors were closed and, after she pushed the door open, the curtains around the bed were drawn too. Seeing that privacy takes second priority to a patient's healing and safety in a hospital, old school nurse wasn't having any of this. She pulls the curtains open, pulls a boyfriend out of the hospital bed, and gave them both a talking to. Tattoo boyfriend left soon afterwards, apparently furious that his evening was ruined. Sure enough, 2 hours after the nurse visited my office, I get a mail from the patient's father detailing how his daughter's privacy was invaded the previous night, how she had a private conversation with her boyfriend, and how they were unfairly treated by a nurse. I was surprised that an older gentleman could write an email to the hospital with so many spelling errors and complete lack of punctuation, but the email address, something like tattooguy@gmail, was a total giveaway as to who the real author was. Now, technically, I was just able to reply on the email detailing our experience on the side of the story. However, Sharing private patient information on an email to an unconfirmed email address is bound to get me in serious trouble. So I did what any sane and perhaps slightly malicious person would do. I called Document Control and asked them to pull the email address on file for me. This happened to belong to her mom. I forwarded the email to her, mentioning that I'd received the following email from her daughter's father, but since she is the contact person on file, and we need to stick with the people that have information to contact, may she be as kind as to share our response with him. I then detailed what the nurse told me about the patient being a slip-and-fall risk that requires constant monitoring, about the boyfriends visiting, about the door and curtain being closed, and the nurse catching them in the hospital bed together. I apologized on behalf of the nurse for invading their privacy, but explained that open doors are protocol to ensure a patient's safety, and our main priority is getting a patient safe, healthy, and back home as soon as possible. I ended the email with my contact details and invited her to contact me if she has any further questions. Well, if the parents didn't know about the incident, they knew now. I am told the daughter was well behaved for the remainder of the time, and the boyfriend didn't stop by once during the rest of the patient's stay. So lessons learned. Don't include your parents' details on your hospital file as your main contact details if you don't want them contacted. Don't try to catfish a hospital employee and respect a hospital for what it is, a place of healing, and not a hotel. 4. My family was looking for a large house, and found the perfect one back in the early 2000s. When my dad talked with the owners, they had agreed to getting some plumbing fixed on the house before we moved in, if we moved all of their stuff into the 2-car garage so it'd be easier for them to move. There was also several things to be repaired, a pool to clean, and a ton of landscaping to be done. My dad did the repairs and used his army of offspring to do all the landscaping, pool work, etc. The house was looking amazing compared to before, and we were a week from moving in. Now, I, to this day, do not know why my dad did this, but he had paid a cash deposit. There was no paper trail, and the owners decided to take advantage of this. When it got to be a few days before we moved in, the owners told my dad they weren't moving their stuff out of the garage or doing the plumbing fixes that were needed to use any of the bathtubs or showers in the house. He could deal with no garage and pay for the plumbing fixes, or he could fuck off. No refund of deposit if he didn't like it. They even said they were thinking of moving someone else in because the value was more with all the fixes we had already done. My father asked to turn in the keys we had been given the next morning because this was all told to him at 8 p.m. on a weekday. With no paperwork yet signed, there was nothing attaching my dad to the house, and no cameras or security system. He had just been fucked over a few $1,000s by the owner, and it was maybe 2 weeks to Christmas. His gift that year was going to be giving each of us kids our own rooms for the first time. Cue revenge. He brought all of us kids over to the house for a little party. Each kid was given their own specific bit of destruction. Someone was shoveling sand into the pool. My brother, with anger issues, was told to punch out every hole we had patched up in the walls. The smaller kids were told to rock the banister on the stairs until it broke. I was told to rip the landscaping we had done out and make a path of it all over the stairs. Every single thing we had fixed or improved, taken back by very creative and energetic children. While all this happened, my dad and stepmom went through everything in the garage from the owners and took anything they could gift to family, pawn, or sell. There were high-value collectibles, jewelry, and a computer that my dad gave to us for Christmas. The next day, my dad told the owners he had put the keys in the garage with its door open that night for them. He then unplugged the phone, and we never heard from those people again. Was it legal? No. Not on either end. Did we have a good Christmas? Yes. Was it fun destroying the place? Yes. I actually did a very tastefully done carpet of hedge branches, torn out flowers, and some of our sand and pool gravel on the actual carpet of the house. 5. Okay, all, to start, I have to inform you that this happened when I was in adult ed to finish my high school diploma. It was the last year I'd be there, so thus new students have entered the school. This is important. These kids wouldn't know who I am, and the friends of mine that have graduated the year prior. This includes Zephyr, also important. I don't mean to toot my horn, though I have been rumored through the school for various things, so most of the new kids know that I am an adult here to finish his education. This has created mixed views among the new kids. Another major change is that my journalist teacher passed the school paper to a new teacher, so I became her sorta editor. This new teacher had a class at the start of the last period that was mostly a free period. So if the kids were good and had their work done, she let them play Smash Brothers on the GameCube. With myself having most of my work done, except for this one assignment I couldn't complete, sorry Miss Ha, she invited me to play during last hour. Thankfully, the kids playing knew me and enjoyed my company. So, with a competitive game, there will be some positive and polite banter, like such wonderful homophobic lines uttered by one of the kids. Whenever he yells an insult, it has to do with male anatomy, an ass, or something homosexual. As far as I know, this guy is straight. I became known as one of the goof players at the school. Now, I'm not great, but these kids started to compete on who can beat me, even to do one-on-ones with me. So he started to make homosexual jokes, using me as the butt of them all. I'm assuming that's because he struggles to beat me in Smash, so he does it to feel better. However, while he makes these jokes in playful jest, he doesn't know that I am bi, hence why the backstory is important. Only the few friends of mine at school know this, and it's not important information to tell the new kids. So my feelings are not hurt. However, I started to form a plan. You see, while Zephyr went to the school, he came out as homosexual. It was funny to watch these kids' reaction to him admitting it when they tried to make him feel uncomfortable with gay jokes. So seeing how this individual kept trying to make me out to be gay, I planned to tell him you want me to be gay to see his reaction. I couldn't have planned it better. During one game, where I was dominating the field with Kirby, he asks me out of the blue, "What's your last name?" So I tell him. However, before I could get the "sh" out, he exclaims, "Wow!" over the sound in my name. Everyone looked at him confused. "What's wrong?" I asked him.
"Dude, that name is so close to swallow."
We all looked at each other. One random kid snaps back, "No it's not." Another one adds, "You just want it to be." This is my time to shine. The light from the windows all focuses on me as a chorus of angels sing, while I look at him and smile with a smile the Grinch would be jealous of. You know what? I have this strangest feeling that you just want me to be gay. Seriously, I could make this up, but I didn't have to. He basically wrote this post before Reddit existed, and so he replied with, "Oh sure, I want you to be gay so I can have a chance with you," he said sarcastically. However, the sharpest listeners would pick up that not once did he explain that he, in fact, did not mention that he is straight. So one of the random kids asked him with all seriousness, "Wait, so you're gay?"
No, I meant...
But the damage was done. The kids started to say things like, "No wonder he keeps saying that Reluge is gay." So after all, the kids jokingly spread the word that he was, well, gay for me. Just for the fun of it, I spread that I was straight, and he's wanting me to be gay for a while now. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 264. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use and sent in stories for use in this video. If you have a story yourself you'd like to send in, please do send it along to kingofthecities@gmail.com. That's kingofthecities@gmail.com. And you can find that in the description of this and pretty much every video, as well as other various links you might like to take a look at. Alrighty, let's see. I don't think there's any other business today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is there a movie that's come out in recent years that kind of got the crap kicked out of it and still does to a degree that you kind of liked from the get-go and you think people will eventually come around on? And For me, there's quite a few of those, but I'm going to list one, which is actually the Eternals movie. It was one of the Marvel films. Really not well received, had an excellent cast. My only complaint is while the movie itself was quite long, it felt rushed. And I think it would have worked, that same story would have worked much better in a longer form done as one of the Marvel TV shows. I think that would have been a better way to communicate it. But I enjoyed the film, I enjoyed the casting, and I would like to see more, which, it didn't do as well as I think they were hoping, so getting a sequel wasn't automatic, but I do have hopes that we will see more from those characters and that cast in the future. So, let me know what you think. Please leave your answers in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. I may or may not be going to snuggle on the sofa while making images. I can neither confirm nor deny. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.